Hey guys, here's a demo of the prototype that I've been working on for the past few weeks. It's something that I kind of just slapped together. It's like a clean sheet design. I only really used this Peavey Valveking for its chassis and its output and power transformer, but everything inside's point to point. It's all me. I'm gonna shut up and play. At the end of the video, I will explain what's going on here, what the settings mean, and yeah, stick around. All right, so I'll explain this prototype and what exactly is going on here. So this was a clean sheet design, something that I came up with. If you look inside, you can see there's two different types of power tubes. The second and fourth position are 6550s, and the first and third are 5881s. So basically, for the power section, there's three voicings you can choose from. Right here, I have a voice knob. So the Brit would be what I have the 6550s in right now at the moment. The USA would be the 5881s, and if you were to put this in the middle, you would be able to get a blend of both for 100 watts. So, 50 on each side, basically, and 100 in the middle. On the back side of it, there's also triode, pentode, and cathode fixed bias switches. So you can make all sorts of weird combinations. Like you can run the 5881s and triode and cathode bias while you're running the 6550s and say, pentode and fixed bias on the other side. So there's all sorts of weird combos that you can make. And the Brit channel doesn't necessarily mean 6550, and USA doesn't necessarily mean 5881. It's just any tubes you would associate with the Marshall sound for the Brit channel, like say EL34s, KT77s, KT88s, that kind of thing. And then on the USA, it would be 6L6 Fendery kind of tones. This wattage control I have here is a post-phase inverter master volume, and there's an independent one for each pair. So if you wanted to have, say, I don't know, if you had it in the middle and you wanted more Brit, you would just turn the USA down a little bit. Or say you were playing at a bedroom volume and you were on the 6550 channel, you could turn this down and then turn the regular master up to get more distortion out of it at a lower volume. So moving on, the frequency knob that I have here, instead of a middle knob, is basically like a mid-shift control. There's no real middle control per se. It is a Baxendall tone stack that I kind of made up myself. There's a bunch of tweaks to it. But basically, when you have the frequency turned all the way to the, counterclockwise direction, it mimics a Fender blackface. And when you have it turned all the way clockwise, it would be like a Vox AC30. So somewhere in the middle is going to be a Marshall kind of tone. But I find it extremely useful for dialing in how much lower mids you kind of want. So like I keep pushing it upward until it kind of thickens out the tone, say if I'm playing with something scooped. Whereas this can kind of thin out the lower mids, basically creates a dip in there. And then this clarity knob is a pre-EQ that I put in kind of right where the gain knob is. And think of how like the tone stack, like the bass middle treble controls work on a Mezzo Boogie Mark series. Like you really use the sliders, you use the graphic EQ to tweak it at the very end, and you kind of use the bass middle treble to essentially tinker with the gain structure, how tight it's going to be. Like this is the same kind of thing that when people run tube screamers in front of their amps do, when they basically use them as like clean buffers, pre-EQs, essentially. So this is basically just a big upper mid push, and the higher you run it, the more it kind of sounds tube screamery, nasally, and the lower you run it, the flatter and more old school it kind of sounds and smoother. I find it to be extremely useful when I'm playing downtuned stuff, especially the 7-string. I run it, pretty high. I guess about 3/4 of the way up. But for standard tuning and drop D, generally I'm just going to kind of keep it in the middle. And also, it's kind of useful too if you have like a very dark guitar, you can dial the upper mids and the clarity, the clarity back in. And there's also a clean channel, but I'm not going to demo that for you today. Haven't really tinkered with it too much. It's very, very clean, very, very jazzy. As far as cab miking goes, I have a Marshall 1960B with V30s in the top and T75s in the bottom. And about 5 feet away from it, I have a condenser mic. This is just a Audio-Technica AT2020, just to get a little bit of a thicker full cab 4x12 kind of tone to it. And the guitar that I'm using is this 1978 Les Paul Custom. It's one of the Norland years, but it's not a pancake body. You know, standard Les Paul custom like maple cap, ebony fingerboard. But because it's a Norlin, it has a three-piece maple neck. So think Zach Wild tone, think Randy Rhoads, that kind of thing. Lots of cut. Very bright guitar. And in the bridge, there's a Seymour Duncan Pearly Gates, and it's pretty much bone stock otherwise.